Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe. I'm a sales and marketing coach and strategist for health coaches, life coaches, and wellness professionals who want to become a leader in their field by building their online community, rocking their sales process, and finally feeling confident about how they promote themselves and their marketing. On this show, we talk about tips to grow your business, save yourself time, and finally be able to create a sustainable, profitable business. Let's get into it. I'm live today with Mike Moll, and I hope I said the last name right. Is that right?
Actually, yeah, you did.
All right. So we are talking today about marketing. Mike is a marketing genius. I was on his show, very fortunate to be a guest there. And we talked about, he has a podcast called Market Me. And so, Mike, I'll let you give a little bit more about your background, how you got into marketing, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Sounds great. Yeah, I don't know, genius is maybe not the right word, but I appreciate the love. So I've been in the marketing space for the past 7 years or so. My first product was an app. It was a grocery shopping app that was going to change the world. It did not change the world. It actually didn't even survive. But while we were in the early stages of that, trying to afford development, we took on some marketing clients. Completely self-taught, started on YouTube, and then I really learned from doing a lot of free work and free campaigns for people to get them to trust me and kind of grow that up. And since then, I've spent about 2.3 million between Google and Facebook myself. Before I brought on a team to start spending for me. I've done a lot of organic outreach, cold email, a little bit of everything because we've worked with companies in all different spaces. I think people like my marketing style because it's very lean and it's very scrappy. I don't want to give money to the platforms if I don't have to. So I'm always looking for ways to work the system or try and find, unique opportunities, whether it be partnership or organic or outreach or ads if it needs to be. But I'm always looking to get to my goal without spending as much as trying to save money.
Yes, I love two things about what you just said. Number one, that you're scrappy and you figure things out. And number two, that you've spent millions on marketing so all of us don't have to. And you can learn from those mistakes. I would want to work with somebody who had spent that much on their past. And I always say to my clients, I've spent so much on just getting my entrepreneurship degree, learning marketing courses, all the different things, mentors. And each time I learned, even from the bad investments, you almost learn more from those because you're like, wow, that is something I don't want to do. That is something I want to help people avoid, that kind of thing. So tell us a little bit, because we have I love that you had an app and you've done all these different things. When you say I do things the scrappy way and I try to do a little bit of everything, tell us more. If we have coaches and health professionals listening, what are some things that they could get started with? Like, let's say they know their niche, they have social media accounts, but now what? So where would you start?
Got it. So I think it's important to take a step back around the topic of social media. I think a lot of people get really fixated on having a like on their post or growing an audience that follows them on social in particular. I think the majority of the way that actual buying decisions happen is that they discover you through a certain means. It may be through social, but it's more than likely not. But what they do want to see is after they've gone to your website or after they Google your name, they want to see that you exist on the internet. Number one, do you look valid? Do you look credible? But the website doesn't really tell that full story, right? The website could have been left years ago with, who knows when that content went up. But social is real. Social is active. Social is right now. So I think what's interesting with social is putting out high quality content. So people that do discover you, when they go to your social, they can then say, oh, this guy, he knows what he's talking about because he's obviously putting out content around that topic. So for me, I've never fixated on growth, even with Instagram, maybe 2,500 on Instagram, maybe 5,000 on LinkedIn. The numbers aren't super high, but they're really qualified people. And when you go and see a post of mine, I'm posting 4 to 6 video clips a week of me either on the podcast or speaking at an event or whatever, and people can really see and understand the knowledge, because you can't hide with video. You can't hide. You can't have someone ghost write your video, right? You either know what you're talking about or you don't. So I like voice and video where it's like you addressing questions and addressing problems. I think that's a really strong way to market. But I think that type of thing, posting on social, is more so going to give you credibility than leads. So if we then step into the lead area, the easiest way to do it is to siphon attention from other people. And I don't say that in a negative way, and I don't say that in a
say that again. Say it again. I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
Easiest way to what?
So the easiest way to generate leads. So in order to get leads, you need to have content. You need to make that content for your potential customer, and then you have to make sure that they see it. So without buying ads saying, hey, I want to go target the specific demographic, how do you get attention on this stuff? I think the best way to do it is to create partnerships and create kind of create content making experiences with other people, not competitors, but people that are horizontal to you, that complement your business. So, I don't do copywriting, I don't do websites, but because I do marketing, I will reach out to copywriters and website people and say, hey, like, let's make some content together. I'll post something of yours on mine, you post something of mine on yours, whether we do a podcast exchange or, we just make a piece of creative together. Because inevitably, if it's a complimentary service to you, it's inevitable that some people in that audience will have a need for you, right? You strategically partner with people that some of their audience may want what you have, and some of your audience may have what they want. And so by doing that exchange, you may exchange a couple of people here and there from a social standpoint, but that awareness could drive leads. So that's a free way to do it, where you're collaborating on each other's stuff, and not in a way, again, it doesn't work if it's with a competitor, because it always just feels like really overly polished. It's like, I think about it like this, the same way we're talking now. Like if someone were to ask me for advice, hey, I got this business, I got this idea, I have no money, how do I market? Like, I would tell them this exact thing. So I think sharing that with you and your audience, the intent isn't to like steal your following, but you may have people in your ecosystem that say, hey, I might actually need more advice like this. And same thing when you came on mine, people in the fitness space, looking for what you do, it's awareness for you, and you may get an inquiry there. And it doesn't mean you're gonna get leads, but it creates a lot more opportunity than just posting organic content.
Yes, I love that. I think that what you nailed down that everybody needs to take away is that content is to build the trust and build your credibility. It is not the thing that's going to just all of a sudden get you a ton of traffic and leads. There's types of posts you can do that maybe go a little more, get more shares and get more, comments and stuff. But the truth is, that was a hard lesson I had to learn, and I hear so many people in the beginning pouring their heart into their content, have zero traffic though. They're pouring their time into this. They're not seeing the return, but they think that if I just start posting lives, if I just start sharing my juice recipes, all of a sudden all these clients are going to start coming to me. And I don't see that happening very often. So tell us a little bit more about how do we go about, how many partnerships do you do a week? How do you go about reaching out? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So I think, especially for people just getting started, I know the inevitable question I get, the pushback that I always get is, well, I don't have any followers. So why would somebody put me on? And I'm coming to them and saying, well, I don't really have anything to offer you. So there's a couple things that people are motivated by when they have an audience, and it works the same way if someone is looking to post something on one of my sites or something like that. Does that piece of content compete with me? Because if it does, we're probably going to get a no. And then B is, does it bring value to my audience that I wouldn't be able to provide? So there's all kinds of blog posts that I could write, but if someone's got an amazing one, like why rewrite it? Let's just leverage that, use that. So a couple things to think about. As many partnerships as humanly possible, but you can generally use a really similar content pillar. Like, here's this one topic, and you can spin it in different ways so that each person's audience has it kind of customized for them. So that's like an easy way to use the same thing over and over and over again, but just tailoring it to how their audience would get the most benefit from it. When you're reaching out, this is the toughest part. So a lot of people in a lot of spaces now are getting a ton of cold emails, cold LinkedIn DMs being like, hey, I want to partner, I want to show you this, I want you to buy this, buy my service, buy my app. Like, it's crazy. And especially if you, on your profile, if you have the word founder or CEO or whatever term you use, I use founder, but that's like, you're the number one target now. You're going to get a ton of outreach and a ton of people harassing you about stuff. So my thing is this: stand out. You know, if you find, some people argue and they'll say, try and do it with scale. Find a whole bunch, cold message them, send everybody the same message. If you hit 1,000 people, then hopefully you get like 3%. And to me, it's not really a good approach. Actually, I was on a podcast earlier today, and I'll kind of walk through it. So what I like to do is I like to go and find out a little bit of information about that person. Doesn't have to take long, 3 to 5 minutes looking at their social media. Then when you reach out in a unique way. So Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook all have the ability to send video message and audio message. I exclusively send video and audio message now. You won't catch me writing text, like, unless it's a quick like yep or this or that. Like, I pretty much always do that for a couple reasons. One, text can come out of context. You know, it's not like when you're reaching out, there's not a lot to be taken out of context, but like, it is still, if you think about like how many fights you've gotten into with your significant other over like, you wrote something and then they took it a certain way and you're like, wait, what? Are we fighting about this? I meant it that way. Oh, okay. Like, text has a lot of room for interpretation, number one. The other thing is that very few people are doing voice and video right now. So I actually send about 150 a week on LinkedIn to new people, building up like just some awareness. And I might be inviting them to a discovery call or inviting them to my Facebook group, but I always lead in with like a video where they're just like shocked that someone took the time, and you address it to them. Hey, Hailey, it's Mike. I just wanted to reach out, say hi. Like, when you use their name, their like jaw hits the ground because it's not really used that much. But the impact is amazing. In fact, I keep a folder in my phone of all the responses that I've gotten that were like, I cannot believe you sent me a video. I've never seen this before. How do you do it? Let alone like, I'm so like, can't believe you reached out that way. So a couple things happen there. You really stand out. When the message comes into them, it looks like a little audio blip, or it looks like the start of a video, and people are thinking, what the heck is this going to be? Like, you have to play it. Text is so easy to ignore. We all get these running flow of messages, but like video and voice, you have to press play just out of curiosity, right? So it makes sure that they hear the messages. So that's amazing. That will help your conversion, and you'll really blow people's minds that you've taken the time. And I think that's more important. I'd say if you were to ask me, send 1,000 automated messages versus 20 personalized video messages a week, I would do the video messages all day.
Yay. Okay, so quality over quantity, going for those video messages, even if it takes you a little time. And what about when you say, I check the person's profile, I send them a personalized video or audio. If somebody's goal is high ticket, they sell high ticket coaching, or they have a Facebook group, you know, they have a bunch of different things, but their ideal goal is to work with clients either in their high ticket or their group program or in some way or another. What is the process? Like, do you say, hey, I just wanted to say hi, would love to hear more about you? Like, I teach to ask a simple, short question and start a conversation, just like a regular relationship. Like, if we met at a networking event, I would say, like, what do you do? Or like, you know, how's your week going? Whatever. What do you suggest as far as the process, and when is it too early, or, you know, that kind of thing? Because I'll be honest, to me, it comes pretty naturally, but to a lot of people, reaching out to people is like terrifying, and they have no idea what to say. And oh my God, they responded with this. What do I do? Like, where do I lead this? Right? So tell us a little more about that.
Sure. Well, I think it depends on what your sales funnel actually looks like. So for me, for example, I have a free Facebook group that talks about personal branding and online presence. I share all of my best knowledge in there. and I know that a handful of people in that group will want to do the next level, whether it's like strategy stuff or like a little bit of one-on-one work. Or so my main thing is like people that are kind of moving away from being in executive roles into becoming consultants. So like, how do I package my knowledge? How do I have a presence online? How do I position myself? What is the result I'm selling? How do I, sales calls, discovery calls, all that stuff. So I work with people one-on-one, and I work with, a handful of people a month at the most, because it's pretty intensive. So for me, my natural fit is like my Facebook group is there. So I never pitch anything on the first message ever. Here's what I do. I find something to either compliment them about or like talk to them about. So if you're trying to get like on a podcast of theirs, or you're trying to co-brand content, here's what I would do. I'd reach out, follow them, reach out, and I would just say, hey, whoever it is, it's Mike here. Just wanted to reach out, say hi. I came across your content through this, really like this and this piece. Just wanted to connect and say hi. So hi, and that's it. And then often you'll get a response back from that, where and then it's conversational after that. But I generally leave any ask out of the first message. And if they respond, if that resonated with them, then I will tend to do it. Now, if they don't respond, I'll reach out like 2 weeks later, and then just like work them towards saying, like, whether it's, if you're trying to get in their content, be like, hey, I scrolled through some of your YouTube videos. I see these topics, but I actually speak about this thing or that thing, and I think it's missing. I think your audience would find it value. I'd love to collaborate, right? You could then, or in the Facebook group example, you could say, hey, I noticed that you're putting out some content. I spent a bunch of time helping artists with their personal brands. I'm sharing my knowledge over in this Facebook group. Would love for you to join it if you're open to it. So if they don't respond, definitely follow up in like 10 to 14 days with the ask. But generally speaking, they'll be like, wow, that's amazing. Thanks so much. Like, tell me about what you do. And then you can go into that. Hey, I do this type of work. I was actually scrolling through your content. Seems like this would be a cool episode for your podcast. I'd love to put my hat in the ring as a potential guest, or I'd love to write a guest post for your blog, or whatever it is. But at least that you've built that human connection. I think what people often forget, like sales and reaching out is intimidating, definitely. But think about the amount of times that people have blindly reached out to you to offer you something, and like 98% of the time, 99% of the time, you don't even want to hear what they have to say. You're just like, oh, great, another stockpiled message, thanks. And they do work, and they can work. But I just find really hyper-personalizing video in that way gets people to respond. The actual big addition to your conversion rates will go through the roof by doing this. The other thing that happens is they feel like they know you. So even if you offer to do a discovery call, or you ask them to co-brand some content, or whatever the ask is at the end of the day, if they're like, yeah, it's not really for me, I'm not about it, at that point you can actually then say, hey, do you know anybody else? Would you be open to connecting them with me? Like at that point, they'll actually give you a referral without even working with you, which is a little like bonus at the end of the rainbow. But something I discovered, because I never asked, and then someone's like, yeah, no, I'm not into that, but like I actually have like 2 other people you should talk to. And I was like, oh wow, like they thought about that ahead of time. So now I ask if I'm not a good fit for them, then I say, hey, do you know anybody else? And you'd be really surprised. They make connections by email. Hey, I know this guy Mike, he's super nice, he does this, you should chat with him. Rather than like the alternative, if you just are sending mass messages, it's like the odds of them taking the time to do that are next to nothing.
Yeah. Okay. So I agree. One of the things I always teach is make it a win no matter what. So you either have a new friend, you have somebody who you can ask for a referral from, you can maybe they check out your podcast or join your Facebook group, and 12 months later they become a client. But that's how, if you're going to be patient with this game, because as you and I both know, conversion rate, like you're not going to have, and I think this surprises some people. Oh my God, like only X% is responding. Am I a terrible person or loser? Should I give up? It's not working. And the truth is, it's very normal to have statistics that just everyone's not going to convert. So my suggestion is, if you're only going into it like, I cannot wait to sell, I just need to put my link, you're going to fizzle out fast. You're going to hate the process. And and it's a bummer. But if you go in it with your mindset, Mike, of I'm going to be friendly, I'm going to send these voice notes out, I'm going to build a relationship, and who knows, maybe they'll send me someone. It's so much different. I've started doing that in my LinkedIn messages. Sometimes I'll say, I have a referral commission program, which I do, is true. But, this kind of stuff does make a difference when you have more touch points with somebody. And while that takes more time and is kind of more, oh, I got to check my messages again, it is better. I've gotten lazy sometimes where I'll invite them to my Facebook group potentially too soon. And I've learned if I tweak the message this way, it goes better or whatever. So what's kind of can you just give everybody some numbers about, how many people should we reach out to? What's the standard conversion rate? And I know this is kind of a tricky question, but let us know.
So in sales as a whole, so I worked for a Google Premier Partner in the early stages of starting this business. Other than doing marketing, I took a part-time job managing 25 people in a sales department. It was my side hustle because we were just trying to fund this business as best we could. And so I worked with them for about a year and a half. And what I taught the salespeople that I had was always kind of a rule of 10%. Even the worst salesperson can usually manage 10%. So if your goal is to get somebody into your Facebook group, or if your goal is to book a discovery call, or if your goal is to book a content collaboration with somebody, land it. Someone actually makes the decision to say yes about one of those things. The rule of 10 is usually the way that I do it. So that way that works is if you reach out to 100 people, and they're relatively targeted people, you should be able to get 10 responses, and out of those 10 responses, you should be able to get one yes. That's the breakdown. So it's 10%, 10% is usually the way that it works. The lower ticket or the easier the yes is, usually the higher the rate. But if you are reaching out to 100 people, then you should be able to get 10 conversations going, and one person should take you up. Now it seems wow, that's a lot of work to get one, but suck it up. That's what it is, right? You want to run a business, you want to be an entrepreneur, get ready for no. Get ready for a ton of rejection all the time. I mean, I've been at it for about 8 years, and no is just part of the game. And so if you don't and so I do about, even at this stage, I still do 150 to 200 videos a week, which takes me about 3.5 hours total time to send. And then all the responses, my inbox is just ludicrous. But the way that it works, so I reached out cold to this guy, Peter. He's a VP at KPMG. He's a big name person, and agreed to connect with me on LinkedIn. I then sent him a video, and I was living in Mexico for the last 4 months. So I had this tie-dye shirt that said locals only. I'm actually still even wearing Mexican themed stuff. And I had a red bandana that I wore because I'm growing out my hair for the first time in my life. And I kind of looked like a beach bum, right? And this guy's a VP of a big organization, and just sent my standard message, hey, just wanted to say hi. I know LinkedIn's a lot of automation. I just wanted to take it off the table, let you know that there's a human here. So hi, my name's Mike, my spiel. He then went and looked at my profile, saw the headline in my LinkedIn profile. I turn executives into consultants. And he said, hey, this seems really really I'd love to book a call with you. And we went to proposal within 2 days. I booked a discovery call the next day, and he's send me a proposal. I'm really interested. So that will happen anyway, just as a residual impact of taking as many actions as possible. It's really important if you are going to be the entrepreneur, if you are going to drive the business and you want the luxury of making 6 figures. 6 figures is not nothing, right? To many people in the world, that's a massive amount of money. It takes a lot of work, especially in the early stages. I used to put in 15 to 18 hours a day in my early stages, and now we've built a great company with referrals. But even now, when COVID hit, we lost 80% of our revenue overnight, and it was just okay, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to get on LinkedIn and I'm going to send 200 messages a week until enough people say yes and we replenish our money. And then we did. So it takes a lot. It always is going to take a lot, no matter how far you think you're going to get ahead. There's always these interesting things that drag you back, and you just got to be ready for it.
I am so glad you just shared all of that with us, because I preach in the Health Coach Nation group, like, yeah, you got to get no's, you got to take action, etc. But it feels so good to have somebody else say it to the Health Coach Nation group. And somebody who's very successful, has been able to scale your business, has been able to grow a team. You do have phases and seasons where you got to sprint. And when you say 250 videos a week, I think that's a beautiful thing for our audience to hear. Because if you want, and as Frank Kern and all those guys say, if you want more, just do more. That's one way to go about it. Yeah, you can outsource. Yeah, you can do less, but better. There's ways you can optimize certain things you're doing. But when you're first starting, sometimes people get so caught up in the things that they're not ready for yet. Like, I want to scale this and I want to do it the most possible, efficient way possible. So I'm not going to start until it's perfect. And my suggestion is what you do. Start somewhere, work at it, and then fine tune it and get more referrals and, you know, all that stuff later. So how do you manage responding to those messages? Because to me, I really struggle lately getting to my inboxes on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. And I'll go back to a message and it's like a week or two later, and I hate to say it, but I'm like, oh man, crap. So what do you do to make time for this kind of thing?
I just responded to 40 messages yesterday, dating back to June 3rd. It is what it is. LinkedIn's inbox is pretty shitty. And I'm upfront about it. So I'll go back on video. If they've responded, I'm like, hey, sorry this took so long. This LinkedIn box is crazy. As I mentioned in my message before, I'm sending like over 100 of these a week. So it gets a little crazy. Sorry about that. And then that's it. I just leave it there. Most people don't care. Most people aren't in a rush for anything unless you say specifically, I'm going to get back to you on this day, or we're going to talk again on this day. If you haven't done that, then if you've done that, then put it in your calendar and do it. But outside of that, like, people are so busy. I think I found messages back from like April, a couple of them, because LinkedIn's inbox is really crappy. And I just sent them videos yesterday anyway. Fuck it. It's been like 4 months, and they like waiting for a response. And I was like, hey, sorry I didn't respond to this. I don't know where it went, but I'm here now. So what's up? And some people, maybe they're off of it. Maybe they're like, well, I can't believe you took so long. I can't believe you didn't respond. Who cares? If you're genuinely sending 100 to 200 messages a week to new people and building real connections and like finding content collaboration, that you're going to make mistakes. You just let them go. You can apologize. You can say, hey, it's not usually my thing. I don't usually make people wait 4 months, but got lost. So it is what it is, right? I think giving yourself permission to screw up, because I can tell you in 7 years, like, we've screwed up a lot of stuff, right? We've had ad accounts that like the credit card declined or expired and we didn't notice for like a week. And I was like, hey, your ads haven't been running for a week. And they're like, what the hell? Like, they're going to get mad. You screwed up. It's your fault, your responsibility, but it's all part of it. Like, nobody's perfect. And I think where people get stuck, and I think I encourage you to look at, is like, look at bigger companies. And you say, well, look, I'm aspiring to be this. And then you look at the ones ahead of you, but they've made mistakes. They posted something super insensitive, or there was a data breach and someone got everybody's emails, or what. Like, this stuff happens, right? Technology and business is evolving so fast these days, and like, it's impossible to keep up with everything. You're never going to keep up with everything. You are going to screw stuff up. So just let it go. Just apologize, and if that's not good enough, then too bad. Just move on.
Yeah. You learned from it. You paid your, as what's his name, Keith J. Cunningham says, you paid your dumb tax. Have you ever read his book?
No.
It's called The Road to Less Stupid, and it talks about how to just how to ask yourself thinking time questions to get ahead of making really expensive mistakes.
I'll download it. I'm a horrible reader, so I listen to everything. But
oh yeah, I listen to it on audiobook. but I
Did you?
had to
Yeah.
take notes about, because there's tons of questions you have to write down. And so that I might have, if I could go back, I would maybe buy the book.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I love what you said, and it's so true. People make mistakes. Everybody does. And uh, speaking of what you said, I went to my face. I hate the LinkedIn message box. It's so hard to find. Yeah, it's really awkward. But anyways, Facebook, I went into that last night and went to I clicked the unread filter, because on your phone, you can only scroll down so much. And it's like, it's unread and read, and it's hard to filter on the Facebook app. So I filtered it. I found messages from like 2019 that I just didn't respond to. So I feel you on that. But anyways, let's say somebody's doing this and maybe they're a little nervous and, they don't have the, oh, actually, I know where I was going with this. Let's say they want, I hear this a lot. Okay, that sounds cool, but I just want people to come to me. But I don't want to spend any money on advertising or marketing. And I also don't really want to spend the time, reaching out to people. So what do you say to that?
Go get a job.
Yes, I love this.
There's no answer. Like, there's no magic pill. There's no, suck it up, do the work or don't. If you don't, you're the one with the CEO title on your Instagram that's going nowhere, doing nothing. There's a lot of those people out there. And the truth is, like, even a lot of the people that are in like paid communities that I'm in or in different groups, like, most people don't want to put in the work. They like the sexiness, they like the idea of it all, but like, so I was talking to Kern from Jube on his podcast this morning, and he was like,
wait, why do
what
I
would you?
do? I just heard about that.
Yeah.
What is it?
He does. So he helps companies with like, he helps companies to foster better employee engagement and foster better client relationships. So he does dinners, now virtual dinners, but he's hosted over 170 entrepreneur dinners in the last 3 years, bringing people together and like building networks and stuff. It's really, really cool what he does. So we make a lot of content together. That might be why we make a lot of stuff together. But I was saying to him, like, there's this like dark secret that nobody wants to talk about in entrepreneurship, and like, there's a guaranteed 2 days out of every month that you're going to be horribly depressed and you're not going to want to do anything, and you're going to feel like the world is coming to an end and nothing's going to fix it, and everyone's going to find out I'm a fraud, nothing's ever going to work ever again. Like, that's part of it, right? And so like, you need to be able to get in the right headspace to shake that off, to then go send another 150 videos every week, um, for the rest of your life, for the entire time you want to be an entrepreneur. That's just what it takes. And I think people see the cool and the glamorous stuff, but they don't see the crazy amount of work and the failure and the rejection. Like, that's part of the game. It's all part of it. So it all comes with it. And if you don't want to do it, then just go get a job.
I love it. Okay, so yes, I agree. And when you say, you just said something about, oh man, I had a question about this. You said something about 2 days out of the month, you're going to feel really bad.
Depression.
Yeah.
Depression. There's a book.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. You can't afford to have a bad week as an entrepreneur. You can afford to have your 2 bad days a month, for example. But when you let oh, I didn't get an answer, I didn't get a response, I'm afraid to post, all that stuff, when you let that derail your action steps in your business and your plan, you are, number one, draining your own energy. But number two, you can't do that. You have to separate. You have to be, and so I love, this is partly why I have a lot of guys, or I'm on a lot of guys' podcasts and have a lot of guys, and I'm not trying to generalize, but I do feel like men in general separate their business from their identity more often than women. Because, or maybe not, maybe they put a defense, they put I don't know, they act like they don't care as much. Is that just me? Or
no, that is the answer. I think, so there is one part, and I think you see it in the neuroscience and like just a lot of just behavioral stuff between men and women, is like, men, generally speaking, are better at um, breaking things into like separating things from each other. So compartmentalizing, being like, oh, this is the box for this thing, this is the box for this thing, this is my like business box and my sports watching box. Like we can really separate a lot of the time. But what happens is when it comes to our emotions and our feelings, and not like, because we compartmentalize, we suppress it a lot of the time. And what happens as a result of that is that we make more irrational decisions at the face of just like, well, I don't care. That's just how it's going to be, because we don't actually incorporate all of the thoughts. So it is good. It is good to be able to compartmentalize well. But if you disregard the other pieces of that puzzle, which men often do, and I'm guilty of it sometimes, more often until I started therapy, like quite a bit more than before I started therapy. But if if you let that control your actions, you're going to make stupid decisions because I have to be right, because this is the thing that goes in this box, and like it doesn't always work.
Yeah. Okay. Really well said. So, transitioning a little bit, what are you currently working on when it comes to your marketing? So, you're doing your direct messages. I also think last time we spoke, when I was on your podcast, you were mentioning you're really into YouTube ads. We're not going to go into that today because we only have a couple more minutes, and maybe we have you back sometime. But can you tell us why you think that, and a little bit more just also in general, what are you working on these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, so I've always been good at helping people with their online presence, and I've always gotten a lot of consulting and strategy work. So I'm actually in the process of kind of a relaunch, like the Social Media House brand. We're kind of wrapping up. It was primarily teaching small businesses about how to run their own Google ads, Facebook ads, and social media. When COVID hit, I mean, we got absolutely decimated. We lost every lead. We had a huge funnel of leads. They were gone. Most of the clients that we were doing marketing for had to pause because they were not essential businesses. And so, yeah, I'm kind of just restructuring my offerings in the last like 2.5 months to be around the topic of helping people kind of get to where I have gotten from a consulting perspective. So I'm kind of starting, in a lot of ways, starting fresh and building a new audience. I still have some of my email lists and some of my following around strategy, but I am really starting from scratch. So I'm kind of doing all the stuff we're talking about. I'm booking meetings, I'm booking discovery calls, I'm finding partnership opportunities to create content. So I'm speaking at a lot of events. So I'm trying to get on a bunch of people's podcasts. I'm finding small online events to speak at, to share my knowledge. And it's really just getting awareness and crossing over with people's attention and seeing where, there's maybe someone in their following or their audience or someone I connect with that resonates with my message and my product. And really just trying to get it out there and let people know it exists. I tend to be on the soft selling side because people don't like to be sold to. They don't like to be pushed. They don't like you jamming a transaction down their throat, right? So I'm, building these relationships now that in maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months, after connecting and after building content with them, could very well make some money from it. But I think building, digging the well before you're thirsty, as they say, like making those connections, reaching out, being helpful, contributing to people's content, will make a really big difference down the road, because that will start to generate some conversions over time. So I guess a couple of closing thoughts and then we can wrap. So, I think it's really important, especially as you're getting started, to remember that nobody owes you anything. And the truth is, same thing. So think about the way that you would buy a product or a service, right? If you're not aware of the thing and until you need it, you don't care about it. So what makes you think people are going to care about you and what you have to offer until they need it or they feel that they need it? And the only way that's going to happen is if they feel educated, if they feel like that you understand them, that you make content that speaks to them. That's how you warm people up, right? If someone called you right now and said, "Hey, I'm offering this type of consulting or this type of coaching, or I can give you a pedicure." Like if you just got a pedicure or you don't care about your toes, then what does a pedicure mean to me? So offering me the pedicure is kind of just like, why are you trying to sell me this thing? I didn't ask for it. I don't need it. And I definitely don't care about you. So making sure that you deliver content to make a certain percentage of people really resonate with you. And then from there, you will get people that say, hey, now I trust you. You've given me some great advice or some free information or some content. Now you've got me thinking about this product or service that you're offering, and I think I want to do it. So you really have to start building that early on. Most people won't make purchases from people within the first 4 to 6 touch points, like connecting in the Facebook group or seeing your video and following you, seeing your posts for weeks or months at a time to like slowly warm up to the idea and then reach out. Like I get a ton of people that have been following my content for years, who said, hey, now I'm finally launching this project, or I'm finally ready to get moving with this thing. I want your advice now. These are people that have literally followed me online for 3-4 years, who are just now coming and becoming clients. So you never know when people are ready, but being able to be providing them with content and providing them with help and guidance and making you the trusted source for the thing that you make content about is a really great way to play the long game and to get people on your side when they're ready. You want them to only think of you, but you can't force it. If people aren't in the headspace for it, if they're not in the mood, if they don't need it or feel like they need it right now, you're not going to get the transaction anyway. So don't push. Just take it slow and make awesome content.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And if you liked it and want to reserve your very own free sales audit, go to haileyrowe.com/strategy-call to book your very own free sales audit. On the call, we'll talk more about the common concerns you get from your ideal clients, how to overcome those concerns, how to coach through objections, how to change your mindset around sales, and improve your sales process so you can be closing and converting more clients. I can't wait to connect with you, and go to haileyrowe.com/strategy-call to take the first step. Thanks so much. Have a good day.